I tried to make this video a couple days ago, and then when I went to edit it and watch it, it just came out horrible, and there were a lot of things that I forgot to say. So I was gonna have to come back in, explain those things anyway. So I decided I'm just gonna start over, try again, try to do it better. Well, the second try was better, but then the video cut off halfway through and I didn't realize it. So please just bear with me. It's a conglomeration of both videos and clips on my phone, but I think it all makes a cohesive story. I'm here to talk about Fireball's health issues, the circumstances that led up to it. It's not a happy topic, but I think it's important for me to make this video because I hope that it can help someone potentially avoid going through all the things that Fireball and I have been going through. So to start off, Fireball, a little background on her. I first met her in 2019 when I was a PhD student at Arizona State University. I did one study that involved green iguanas. Fireball was part of that study. So I first met her in the spring of 2019. She was just a couple weeks old, along with all the animals that came in for this study. And she later became my pet. We've spent years building our relationship. She got the name Fireball because she was the only iguana in the entire study out of 36 iguanas that never settled down, never got used to our presence, never just accepted what was going on in the study. If we even looked at her while she was inside her cage, she'd immediately start whipping her tail at us. So she had the spiciest personality of every single iguana. And after years of hard work with her, I just think she's a great example of how you can look at an animal and think that they're mean or aggressive, but a lot of the times, and in her case specifically, it was really just fear. She was just afraid. And so I had to totally relearn how to handle her and how to approach her, and it was so worth it because now she's just such an incredible pet. 2 years ago, I thought that she was going to lay eggs because her behavior seemed to suggest that. She was very restless, and it looked like she was looking for a nest. I would let her out of her cage to just roam around the house, and she would just be constantly on the move. And so I made her a nest box. Nothing ever happened. She never laid eggs. I don't know if she ever even went in the nest box. Then last year, her like restless behavior started up again right around the same time. It's always around September. And at that time, I was in a different house that was a lot smaller, and so I didn't even have a cage for her. She was just free roaming, and she was doing great with that. But then once she started getting restless, and so she would escape my room, and then it was kind of a safety concern for her and for my roommates because they weren't familiar with iguanas, and she can easily do some damage to you if she feels like it. So I was getting really frustrated and I wasn't sure what to do. And then I finally decided that, like, maybe the best thing is to just rehome her. So I contacted a reptile rescue in southern Arizona, and I went there to surrender her. But when I got there, the place was so overcrowded with animals, it looked like a hoarding situation. And I looked in all the cages, and hardly any animal even had water, let alone clean water. There was none. The animals were packed, she had like 4 tegus in one 4x2x2. And the animals did not look well cared for at all. And so I didn't want to leave Fireball there, but at the same time, I had a flight later that day across the country, and I had no one to take care of her. Thankfully, this rescue offered a boarding option. So I did have to board Fireball there for about a month. The reason why I couldn't get her back right away once I got back from my trip was because I still didn't have a cage for her, and the free roaming option was just not working, clearly, because she kept escaping and wreaking havoc in a way that only an iguana can. And so I needed to get a cage for her, and I did not have funds, like, at all. And so it took a while, but finally I had a friend give me her old cage. It was like a cat condo type cage. It was wire with 3 levels for the cats to jump up on. So as soon as I got that cage, I was able to then go and get Fireball. Meanwhile, Fireball laid eggs while she was at this rescue, and then she laid a couple more even once I got her back, which was like late January. She went to the rescue in mid-December, so she was there for about a month, and then I got her back. I was really upset at her condition. She had lost so many toes. She was skinny. She was extremely dehydrated. I have videos of her just drinking so much water. I've never seen her drink that much, and she was that thirsty for days after I got her back. And then she was also really skittish. Like, she just acted like she was afraid of me, which was not normal at that point. Clearly had a really bad time there. I just took it slow, and we built back our trust, and it wasn't until I got her back from the rescue that I realized that she is, in her own special way, actually bonded to me, because it was one day after I got her back that I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna try holding her again, because I didn't even hold her or take her out or anything for a while after I got her back. So I tried to hold her, and she just completely relaxed. Her belly was against like my chest, and she just put her head on my shoulder and just stayed there, totally still. That was unique. She never really likes to be held, but that day was when I realized that, like, okay, I think she missed me. All this work over the years, I didn't really think she even liked me that much, but that's why I say it's like, in her own way, we do have a bond. So anyway, that takes us to summer of 2025. I got her back to health. She looked amazing. She was doing great appetite, nice and chunky, very active, but also very sweet, and she just was doing so well. These next few clips are all from summer 2025. Good girl. Fall 2025, her pre-reproductive cycle behavior started up again. So by this time, I basically understood what it meant and what to expect. And so oh my goodness, Vulpix, stop. What? Come on, I really want you in this video with me. Can you just relax? I just want you in the video. She started getting her restless behavior, losing her appetite, all the things that I've come to associate with her entering into a reproductive cycle. Once she enters into a reproductive cycle, I don't really tend to, what are you doing? I don't really tend to take her out that much, because she typically doesn't want to be handled, like, at all. So I kind of just leave her alone. At least what I had been doing the past couple years was leaving her alone and just continuing her care as normal, but kind of disregarding, like, her restlessness, because it persists no matter if she's free roam or in her cage. So I just was kind of like, all right, here we go again. Can't wait till this is over. I took her outside in early November, It was right after Halloween because I wanted to get some video of her in her Little Mermaid costume. And so I did get that, and it was adorable. December 19th, I remember specifically because of what happened the next day. And I saw her at the bottom of her cage. Again, she's in this wire cage. And she started trying to climb up the wall, which she'd done a million times. But this time, once she got her body vertical, she fell backwards onto her back. And then she was actually stuck like that for a bit. And I was just watching her because I also was curious. I'm like, is she going to be able to get herself back up? Like, what's going on? And she did get herself back up after a minute, but that stuck out in my mind as very unusual and not a great sign. And then the next day, December 20th, somebody who was over at the house noticed that she looked stuck. And so I went in to go get her. Decided, like, oh, whatever, I'll just take her outside. She could use the sunshine. This is in Arizona, so it's still really warm and beautiful. So I took her outside, and it wasn't until she started walking around that I saw that she was not able to use her back legs. She was pulling herself along by her front legs. It was a very disjointed gait. I was freaking out because I had never seen anything like that. She had never acted like that before. And so I called a vet and I got her to an appointment that afternoon. The vet visit was kind of inconclusive. They took a blood sample, but when I got home, I decided to email my graduate school advisor. He also is a vet, in addition to being a university professor. And he also knew Fireball because he was my advisor in grad school, so he was there for the study that she was involved in. I sent him some videos of her and how she had been moving, and he has a lot of experience, and so once I sent him those videos, he was like, okay, there's very little doubt in my mind that she has metabolic bone disease. And if you have reptiles, chances are you've heard of metabolic bone disease, aka MBD. Reptiles rely heavily on calcium for their muscle contractions, but just giving them calcium isn't enough. They also need UVB lighting and heat in order to metabolize calcium into a form that it can be used by their muscles. So it's multi-factored condition that, in its simplest terms, it's a severe deficiency in calcium. Their body starts taking calcium from their bones to enable their muscles, like even their heart, to continue to work. And so that's why you'll see curved spines. In really severe cases, their jaw will start to soften and weaken. So she was calcium deficient to the point where she's unable to use her back legs, and her tail was just always limp, as opposed to her whole life being able to whip it and use it as a defense mechanism. That all being said, I was really shocked to hear that because from my perspective, she had never gotten it before, and I associated MBD with like just somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and is kind of clueless with reptiles. Like, I have years of experience keeping reptiles, and I've never had an animal develop MBD. So I was just shocked and horrified because that's fully on me and my fault in that I didn't give her the care that she needed in order to prevent this disease. It's highly preventable. At this point, she was definitely in a reproductive cycle. From looking at her in the correct lighting, I could see her developing follicles inside of her, and I could feel them definitely anytime I just palpated along her side. They start depositing a ton of calcium into the developing follicles. And so with female iguanas especially, the reproductive cycle is a really serious time. And this is what I've learned. A fireball, can you stop? Come on, ow, you're hurting me. You were so much better behaved in the other take of this video. Stop. You're fine. They require a lot more calcium in order to get through this reproductive cycle. And it turns out that it's actually very common for female iguanas to develop MBD during a reproductive cycle, purely because of the calcium that they need in order to like properly develop their clutch. And it's just crazy because this is even an unfertilized clutch. She's not been exposed to any male iguanas. They'll do this huge investment into eggs that are not even viable. It happened for her very slowly because she began this reproductive cycle in November, was when she started like displaying the personality changes that I talked about. And then, you know, by November, she was still totally fine. But then when December hit, that's when she could no longer walk properly. That increased need for calcium started probably around September. And I just was giving her the same care that I always had without any real like extra effort to make sure she's getting the calcium, make sure her UVB's, you know, that she's getting enough of it. And I rarely, if ever, monitored her temperature and humidity, partially because she had so much time as a free roam lizard and it had always been okay that I was like, well, she's always okay. So here I just keep doing what I've always done because it's always been okay. This was the year that I learned that you cannot take their health for granted, especially during a reproductive cycle. That's why I want to make this video, is because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. There were days when I would come in to check on her and I thought she was dead multiple times because she would just be stuck in these strange positions upside down. And it was really stressful for her and for me. And it's so preventable. And so my advisor told me to she gets calcium powder, but he told me to get an oral gel type mixture. It comes in a big syringe. Now, typically it's meant for like dogs, but he said I can use it for her. So I got her this oral calcium gel syringe, and he said to start giving her that daily. So I did, even though she really, really hated it. After I give her the syringe, she's only getting 1 ml, but she'll do like a lot of coughing and like weird sounds with like her throat for a while after. Couldn't use her back legs anymore, I filled in from like the top shelf to the second shelf and made it one level so she couldn't climb down anymore, and that way she couldn't fall. And I checked the temperatures that her cage was getting to, and it was getting way too cold at night for her, like 65 degrees. I got her a space heater and had that on at night, and that kept the temperature from getting so low. This is just a video to see Fireball's wire cage, and that's Papaya the lovebird that would sometimes fly in there to see Fireball and just hang out. But as you can see, I didn't mention humidity because in a cage like this, there's really no way to control the humidity, especially not in Arizona, of all places. So I actually ordered her a Zen habitat, which would allow me to better control the humidity in there. She wasn't really getting better. She just wasn't really getting worse either. And then I just was mentioning to my advisor one day how I wanted to spay her after she laid her eggs, because I didn't think you could spay them while they were in the midst of a reproductive cycle. And when I said that in an email, my advisor responded back that he would do the surgery for me if I wanted, which was so kind and generous of him. I was not expecting him to offer that, because that's $1,000+ surgery, and he just offered it for free. And so he wanted to do it ASAP. And I wanted to wait a bit just to see if she would lay her eggs herself, because it was getting close to the time that she laid them last year. So we scheduled it for January 20th, and she didn't lay her eggs herself. So we went to go get her spayed, and when my advisor anesthetized her and opened her up, she was packed full of developing follicles. And the crazy thing is that they weren't even shelled yet. So she still had a long way to go before her eggs would have been even ready to lay. And most likely she would not have been able to lay them, because she would not have had the strength to push them out. So then after this surgery, we took all the follicles out. She had some that were not developing at all. So I guess she was saving those for next year. So clearly this would have just been a continuing issue. So I am really glad that we went ahead and did the spay surgery. It was successful, and she still has all her stitches. I don't know if you'll be able to see them too well, but they're there, they're healing. And this is her post-surgery, all set up in her new Zen habitat, which arrived January 20th, same day as her surgery. While she was opened up, my advisor noticed that her gut was just completely full of fecal matter. It made sense, because she hadn't pooped at that point since 3 months prior. He thought about trying to remove the contents, but we kind of felt like it might be just too invasive. Like, we're already removing her packed full of follicles. We're taking all of those out. So maybe with those gone, she'll be able to poop normally again. And it's better to allow her body to take over than for us to just do it all ourselves. So we left the poop in there. I've been documenting her health journey pretty much ever since the surgery. Initially, like, her progress seemed so fast, like she was recovering so well. And I remember sending my advisor some videos, and he was stunned at like how quickly she was recovering and how active she already was again. And so that was great. But then I feel like after that, her recovery kind of slowed down. Sometimes I feel like she's actually regressed a little bit. And the only thing, well, I mean, there's lots of things, but ever since the surgery and leading to then, I really honed in on her feeding and made sure she always had either calcium, both with and then sometimes without D3 in it. And appetite was still really poor, so it wasn't making a huge difference. But what probably was the calcium oral gel that I was giving to her. I was doing that every day. But then after her surgery, my advisor did say I should keep doing it every day, but she had begun to hate it so much that I just felt bad. I felt like I was making her miserable. All right, it's time to do Fireball's new least favorite activity, which is to give her calcium oral paste. I was giving it to her daily, and now I've started giving it to her every other day just because she hates it so much. Surgery scar. She still hasn't pooped yet either, after having 31 follicles removed. And during that time, my advisor saw that she had a very full gut and definitely needs to poop, but so far it has not happened yet. Okay, I know you hate it. I know, girl. And now that she's getting her strength back too, she can fight me a lot more. Come on. I know. No. Fireball, no. I know, you're making it worse for yourself. Come on. You gotta just eat it. Ow. Jeez. Oh, did one of your scales come off? That's good. I know, Fireball. I know, girl. I'm sorry. Sorry, but it's good for you. She's doing really good, though, overall. We don't like that part of the day, but I'm glad she's feeling able to fight so much, even though it's not fun. I know. Alright, you need to just go back home. She still needs to rest. Her surgery was only 3 days ago. Since her surgery, she's been getting the oral supplement every other day. And then around early February was when I was planning to move across the country from Arizona to New Jersey. And I knew that she still had this gigantic amount of feces inside of her. And I thought for sure before we left that she would have pooped, because her appetite was also gradually coming back. And so she's eating more and more consistently, and yet still no poop, even though her gut was already full. And so I was getting worried because I'm like, okay, well, we're about to leave. And I knew she wasn't going to have ideal lighting. She wasn't going to get like the ideal feeding schedule. So I was like, I don't want that poop like just sitting in there. And so I used a cotton swab to go up the cloaca and just give it a little poking and prodding. And she had this huge turd come out of her, and it took a while. Like, I was holding her kind of up by her arms, and she was like wiggling her whole butt to try and get this poop out. And it took like at least 2 minutes to get it out. And it was just like a brick that came out of her. So that was good. And I was hoping that like, okay, we got that, maybe that really old poop out that might have been kind of stuck. And so maybe now it'll be a little easier for her. It was like a 5-day road trip. She wasn't really eating. She wasn't really getting the lighting that she needed because we were driving most of the time. And I would set up her cage at night. She would have everything all there. Fireball's got her little setup with her UVB and her basking light, but only a couple hours a day, and she definitely needed more than that, but it was the best I could do during our road trip. From the February 17th on, she's had her lights set up, she's had her cage set up, and watching the humidity. It's still a little bit low. It hovers around 40%, except right after I mist, it'll go up and then slowly go down again throughout the day. But as you can see, all of the decorations and stuff are all just on the ground because she still can't climb. She still really doesn't have any strength in her back legs, although she does use them more. But with the calcium supplement, I wasn't really giving it to her, but then last week I noticed that she really looked like she was regressing, like her spine is curving a lot more than it was. I was like, all right, well, we just have to do this calcium. We have to figure out a way to do it. And I found a smaller syringe, so that helps a lot. But she still, like, really hates it. 2 weeks after we got back, like, end of February, still hadn't pooped. She's eating more and more. She's basically eating daily again now. And I actually asked my advisor, like, you know, should I do this again? Because she's still not going. He said to go ahead and try. So I did, and this time even more poop came out. Plus, like, this goopy, yellowy stuff is so gross. I let him know that it was another success. We got more poop out, and he said to start doing it every 2 to 3 days as long as she tolerates it. And she actually does tolerate it pretty well. She kind of just closes her eyes, and then I have to do some wiggling, but then I'll, like, hit a point, and then the poop just all starts coming out. I let her soak first for a while to soften it all up in there, which I think that helps a lot. And then, yeah, so we're about to go do that again. It's been, I think, 4 days actually since the last time. Hopefully she's gonna eventually be able to poop on her own again. Like, you can see how full she is. Like, she needs to poop, but she just doesn't. And It doesn't matter if she's been like swimming, because I've been soaking her in the bathtub, and so she can actually swim. I mean, in theory, she could swim. She can't really swim because, you know, she's still sick. That is our whole ordeal that we've been going through. I just really hope that this video can be helpful. Just don't ever take your iguana's health for granted, especially not if you have a female iguana, because while in reality, this disease came on very slowly for Fireball. To me, it was like we went from November, where she's perfectly healthy, to all of a sudden now my iguana can't use her back legs at all. I just feel so bad when I look at her. I mean, I'm responsible for her. It's my fault that she's like this. And, you know, she's lost all these toes. Like, she lost some at that rescue, aka animal hoarder. But then she lost more this year with me. I was so upset when I got her back from the rescue at her condition and her toes, and then the same thing was happening right in front of my own eyes, and I didn't recognize it until it was way too late and she was already sick. So I just feel terrible, and I just would hate for anyone else to go through this. I just hope that she gets better soon. So send lots of good thoughts our way. We need them. And I hope that I'll have a happier update for you guys the next time I'm on here.